What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Accounting Flow podcast brought to you by Financial Sense. This podcast is dedicated to taking a deep dive into accounting firm workflow and processes. Each episode, we will spend 20 minutes interviewing actual accounting firm owners just like you, uncovering specific processes that firm owners and operators encounter on a daily basis and discuss ways to improve them. Let's go. All right, we're live here with another episode of Accounting Flow with the one and only Randy Crabtree. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. You?
I'm doing great. It's a nice Friday we're recording on here. We get to talk about culture today.
You are right. I am doing great. I can't believe I said I'm doing well. I'm amazing. I'm awesome. I'm having fun. So great was a better answer than mine.
Well, you just came off of the Firm Growth Forum
I
as well,
did.
right?
I got back last night, and I think the reason I said I'm doing well is because I got on the scale this morning. I'm like, holy cow! There's no way I put on that much weight at that conference. but it was a fun time. Yeah, the conference was great.
We are jumping into conference season here, which tends to take a toll on, mental and physical well-being.
Yes.
So definitely keep that a priority. But today we get to talk about culture, which I know you spent a lot of time talking about. I'm really excited about. And ideally, we're jumping into workflow. We're jumping into process. How do you set this up? How do you govern it? How do you preach it within your firm and to the outside parties? I'd love to hear just philosophically, like, how do you think about culture?
Yeah, so that's good because you had mentioned before we even went here live is that we're going to talk processes and that, and I'm like, well, I don't processes bore the heck out of me. I just don't. I am not. I don't think that way. I'm probably from a business owner standpoint, I'm probably awful. Um, Process, procedure, KPI. I don't. That stuff just bores me. But then when we're talking, I'm like, okay, well, there is a process around culture. Culture's intentional. You
Yeah.
you have to think about it. You can't just hope it happens. And so I guess I do a little bit around process. But let me just to get to your question, which was I forgot already. But what do you think about culture? Or how do you think about culture? Am I close?
Yeah.
Okay.
Philosophically, how do you think about it?
So this is a hard one because when I look at culture, I can look at it, which is funny because it's not something physical you can see, but you can see what the atmosphere. You can feel it. I guess is more importantly than
Yeah.
look at it. And I can feel a good culture. I get the sense there's a good culture. Defining culture is really hard for me. So if you have any help, let me know. But here's one thing that I after hours of back and forth with ChatGPT, um, came up with at least a I don't know if it's a definition, but it's at least the way I look at culture and think about it, and is and looking at the other screen so I don't get it wrong here. But weak cultures rely on rules, while strong cultures rely on relationships. And so for
Mm,
me, relationships. I should pause there. Weak cultures rely on rules, which is in our profession, rules are all over the place. And
right.
so it's easy maybe for us to fall in the trap of rules. And but that being said, rules still are part of culture. I just like to concentrate on the second half, while strong
Yeah.
cultures rely on relationships. Relationships mean everything. The people that you work with are the most important thing. And so if we can somehow build the relationships and get to know the people we work with and then instill things into the business that foster strengthening those relationships, that's a process that we can go
Yeah.
through to strengthen culture.
Okay. I I like that a lot. I fully agree with the concept of relationships fuel culture. That said, I believe that culture is represented differently by every person in your firm. Everybody has a different lens of what a quality culture is. And so, to some degree, you've got to create a bespoke offering, bespoke environment that caters to how individuals can excel in the relationships in your firm. How do you think about the bespoke of that in order to create something that's appealing to all?
So first you have to define bespoke for me. I'm not smart like you. All these big words, I'm no. All right. So um, I agree. And so further when I dig into this, it's like, okay, and to me, this is a highlights the fact, I think a little bit of what you just said. But diversity in your firm is so important. So diversity creates culture. And when I say diversity and inclusivity, ooh, I said that word right. That's like 5 times in a row I've said inclusivity, right? 6 now. Um, those two things are so important to create a culture. And when I say diversity, it's a diversity of everything. I mean, when we think DEI and there's like an and now to DEI and belonging. And when we think, and the belonging is huge and extremely important. But when we think about that, we have usually some mindset of what that means. I think we got to think bigger because it's just skill sets, diversity of skill sets, diversity of personality, diversity of where you grew up, diversity of whatever it is. There's a lot of diversity, and without that, I say this all the time. If my company was clones of me, we wouldn't have a company. It would never happen. I mean,
Right.
we'd have a lot of fun, but we wouldn't make money because you need all these other personalities. And so we got time for a couple stories, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. So we did a couple of sessions around Clifton Strengths Finders,
Mm.
which was pretty cool. Going into it, I wasn't like, oh yeah, whatever. I don't want to know. I think of those 4 boxes with personalities. I'm like, I don't. That doesn't do anything for me. But this Clifton Strengths Finders, we all did it in one retreat. We do two retreats a year, which is culture building, by the way. We do 2 retreats a year. The first retreat, we all just took the whatever exam, which is not an exam, but we took the evaluation, and found out where we fall within the strength finders, not weakness, finder, but strength finder. And
Yeah.
everything's a strength, just some are stronger than others, which was nice. But then what do we do with that? 6 months later, we did our next retreat, and we had somebody there facilitating, and she went deeper into what each of these mean. And then at the end of that, going to try to make it short, which is not always easy for me. At the end of that, she broke us out into 4 corners of this big room. And and I always forget what it's called, but the people that get everything done, the doers,
Yeah.
are in one corner. The relationships are in builders are in another corner. The strategic thinkers are in this corner, and then the influencers, which that's where I was, is
Ah,
in
of
this other
course.
corner. And had to throw that out there. And then the impact of that, looking around, first we talk amongst ourselves and, hey, yeah, this is what we do, and this is how what we do with these other groups. And then you just look around the room and you go, holy cow, we're nothing without that corner, without that corner, without that corner. And it just brought goosebumps to you. And so just the
Yeah.
diversity in that level was so important. And that alone right there, just because someone's in relationship builder and someone's in strategic thinker doesn't mean they can't be good friends either. They are good friends.
Right.
But you can see the skill sets everybody has and the passion just as much as the skill set. And then from there, you realize to create a team that's going to whatever success is that is going to be successful. And for me, success is everybody really is enjoying what they're doing and having fun. Fun's important, but
Hmm.
also we're going to service then our clients. And our clients
Yeah.
come after our team. But if our team's happy and doing well, and our team is diverse, and because of that, boom, the rest happens. All right, sorry, long story.
I love it. I love it. So I'm hearing some process here in that you have strategically administered a test, a feedback loop to understand what your team's core competencies and or strengths are, right?
Yep.
So now you've got an understanding of how the puzzle can fit together and where people can contribute their highest and best use. So once you have that assessment, you have the data to now be able to say, hey, how do we lean into this and help the team collaboratively work together that then contributes to culture. And so whether it's strengths finders, disc assessments, working genius, there's a lot of ways to accomplish that, but that could be a really good first step to start building a really collaborative culture. And what I love about the strength finders is that you're leaning into strengths. You're not trying to just micro improve the weaknesses. You're trying to help people become the best version of themselves with where they're strongest.
Yep, I agree completely. You're really good at this, by the way. Um, I'm starting to see your strengths. I've known your strengths anyways.
It's woo.
Everything you have is a strength.
Not true.
Um, but the important thing of that is I can build off of that two ways. One is, yes, you see their strengths from this, but that's only part of it. The other part is what's their passion and
Hmm.
who they are as a person, not who they are as a job title. And I'm sure you've heard it before, and everybody that's ever heard me talk know that I'm a huge fan of John Garrett and What Your And.
Yeah.
John gave me a concept or a definition of what I think I've always felt. I wanted to know the people as they are, who they are, but that really made a big impact. And we live What You're And too. So
Hmm.
we get to know people on a personal level, or as much they don't have to share. They can share what they want. You don't have to share if you don't want to. There's
Yeah.
no forcing anything on anybody. But when you know that in conjunction with the skills, then I mean, you can't be stopped because you're not going to pigeonhole somebody into, hey, we hired them as this. And because we hired them as this, oh, you just said it. They have some weaknesses. I don't look at weaknesses anyways, but they have some weaknesses over here. And so that's what we're going to concentrate on. That's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Here's their strengths, concentrate on their strengths. And we know their strengths from Clifton Strengths Finders, and we know their strengths that tie into their passions because of who they are.
Hmm.
And really, really quick story. When we hire, you're smiling like Randy's not going to do a quick story. um, when we hire people, we hire good people.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Wherever they end up falling within the company, it's almost like we let them determine that
Hmm.
at some level. You can't
Yeah.
constantly do that. But when people show a passion for something, show that whatever it is that there's something I really want to do that's over here, even though I'm over there, we encourage that. And so we've had some of our largest service offerings come out of people coming in and pivoting from a business development role to a service offering line development role.
Hmm.
I mean, so when you see that, and that happens because you know the person, you know their passions, you know their skills, and you're open as a company, you allow people have freedom to share their ideas. That creates a great culture. But that also, when you create a good culture, you're going to create an environment where the company can flourish as well.
Oh man, I love it. So we got step one in the process, and that's identify core professional strengths and then orient accordingly within your organization. How about part two of the process is identifying the personal side of a person's journey, an employee's journey. So, but just like John Garrett and What's Your And, we here say, hey, what's your full send? And so we've got
Yes, I got to start using that.
yeah, happy to. I'll license it to you on a very small royalty. Um, so we've got like mountain biking, we've got planting plants, we've got paddle boarding, we've got hiking. Myself, it's golf, and so we've got all these things, these data points that help us connect to our employees in a more relatable way, and also know how to properly incentivize and treat the employees when it makes sense in order for them to live more fulfilled lives. And so you've got the professional aspect, you've got the personal aspect, and to be able to coalesce all of that into an organization, I think creates a really unique chemistry.
Oh, I agree. And there's one other step in there. It falls in with the second step you said there, but many of the people we're going to be that will listen to the millions that will listen to this
Right.
because of you, not because of me, but because of you, are going to most likely be business owners, is my guess.
Yes.
And so the one step that we don't think about in that process often is ourselves.
Hmm.
We skip that. It's like, okay, yeah, these people want to do this and they're going to change, but we don't evaluate our own skills and passions often enough. In my mind, we don't do this. And story time. um,
Quick story.
all right, 7 years ago, I did this personally. I was managing partner of our firm, really looked at what I was doing, and back to being managing partner and having to do process and procedures and KPIs. Maybe I did more than I thought, but I didn't think I did. Looked at that and thought that's not my skill set. That's not my
Hmm.
passion, and so walked away from managing partner role. that's probably the bad way to say it. Just transition to my partner to take over that role. He is that role, the KPI
Mm.
process procedure. He got in the right seat. If you, I still haven't finished Jim Collins' book, but he got. We had him on the bus. We had people on the bus. We got him on the right seat. We got me on the right seat. The two people who started this firm, me being just the whatever I do, I think I just go out and I be a voice for our company. Once we got in the right seats 6 years ago, really, where I took a 6-year span, we went from 1.7 million to 20 million. We put a
Mm.
culture in place. We allow people to transition within the company into the right seat where they like to be. It took till we got into the right spots before the company. Then we gave people the opportunity to flourish. And so in a 6-year period, it just took off. I think because of culture and because we got in the right spots too.
Yeah. Yeah. And ERC helps too. All right. So within the realm of like right person, right seat, a very EOS driven mentality framework, it is critical to do that. That being said, a lot of the folks that are listening here have firms that are possibly under 10 person firms. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 7 person
I
firms.
know.
It
Yep.
is not possible to take off those hats and just hand off, the role that you may not feel as if you're flourishing in to somebody else. And so early on in the firm, how did you navigate that? How did you kind of orient your trajectory into ensuring you were in the right seat?
It takes a lot of trial and error. Unfortunately for us, for me personally, at least, it took a lot of that. It took a lot of other people in the company saying, "Yeah, we should do this. We should change this." I, sometimes I'm probably too much of the let's have fun mentality, but I think that's a huge part of culture. But it was a lot of transitioning that way from I mean, I had one of the most impactful lessons I think I ever learned was ignoring when we had a culture killer. And it
Mm,
was just I was ignoring it because it was somebody I knew really well and I didn't
yeah.
want to think that they were doing anything. And so from that standpoint, it was just a matter of somebody who came up to me and basically said, if this doesn't change, I'm leaving. And this person is probably the most important person in our company right now. It's
Yeah.
not managing partner. It's not this. The person that just gets a lot done. And it made me realize, yes, I can't just have fun. I have to correct things. And that's also part of the why I decided, I can't be in the leadership or the managing partner role because
Mm,
that's not something I enjoy doing. So I
yeah.
did it. And then probably was a big part of me transitioning as well.
Yeah. And it was probably character building for you too, to expand your skill set, to understand better how you want to lean into your strengths for the firm. You mentioned fun as a core value that you have, maybe spurring people to have more fun within the industry, which I absolutely love.
Yep.
And people in our industry, like Dan Gertrudes is a great example. I see him doing TikTok dances and I
Oh
see
yeah.
them having fun in the office. And I feel like there is such a high level of importance of ensuring that there is a collaborative culture of fun and enjoyment and delight in what we do. And with that tone being set at the top, you can't underestimate the value of that as it relates to culture.
No, no, I agree. And I want to another thing. You just say such amazing things that it just gets me thinking. Um, Part of that is too in a remote culture because remote culture, a
Hmm.
remote environment, I should say, in a remote environment, people like I can't create anything in a remote environment. Believe me, you can. I think we've
Yeah.
done it. We've been named one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the U.S. for the last 2 years. Um, we've got other awards out there, and what we do is we're intentional. Again, go back to intentionality, but I think it's also important to get together. So
Hmm.
twice a year we have retreats, and
Yep.
twice a year we get together, and we've built relationships like you and I right now, 2 dimensional, and then we get together and we expand those 3 dimensional in person. And I'm gonna short story. Um, at our year and a half ago retreat, we were in San Diego, and this goes back to the fun, but also the relationships, goes back to everything, all goes back to everybody feeling open and valued and being able to share. We had a photographer at this event, and the photographer was talking to someone I worked with, and she told me about this after the fact. The photographer came up to me during the sessions or during our fun and said, I do this, taking pictures for corporate events all the time. This is the very first time I cannot figure out who the partners of this company are, because everybody's on an equal level and everybody
Yeah.
enjoys each other's company. And so back to the fun level, I think it's because we all have fun together and we're
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
family. You can call it whatever you want, and we're actually both. And that's the other part of this. You attract people when you have this type of culture. We
Yes.
don't have to search for people. We get people's high school friends, college roommates, husband, wives, mothers, daughters, brothers, sisters. Everybody tells their friends about the culture of this company, and that's how we grow from an employee
Mhm.
base.
And not only do you grow for an employee base that year, you create the engagement by getting together in person, those 3D relationships. And also, I believe you shared a data point within the last several months that I recall as it relates to turnover and team retention. And you all have some of the highest retention in the industry, I would say. Talk a little bit about that side.
It go obviously everything. I equate everything back to culture. But so in the 17 years, we're 70 people right now. In the 17 years we've been in business, which was 2 weeks ago, was the 17-year anniversary.
Congrats.
I think, and I keep saying I think, and I should verify the numbers, but I know I'm within one or two. 7 people have voluntarily left on their own accord. You know, um, and the last two that did, one decided to go to medical school. We
Hmm.
celebrated that, obviously. That,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we were sad. This goes back to culture then too, with him. We were sad that he was gone, but man, this is such an exciting opportunity and role for him, and we celebrate your outside of work passions, whether it
Hmm.
leads to something internally or externally. He told us 6 months ahead of time because he didn't want to leave us hanging. He
Yeah.
knew we wouldn't be like, okay, walk out the door tomorrow. He knew that
Right.
wasn't going to be the case. And when he started medical school, he said, "You know what? I got some extra time. Do you mind if I keep working part time?" Yeah, duh. Of course, we don't mind that. And so that, and then the other person that left, the most recent, a engineer and a lawyer, and everybody that leaves lately is lots of degrees, because this guy was a lawyer and an engineer
Hmm.
too, and now he's going to have a medical degree. Another person, I think it's an engineering degree, law degree, decided to follow his passion of teaching law school.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm good with
Yeah.
that. So yeah, retention's been huge for us. I'm going to say culture 1,000 times apparently today, but it all goes back to culture in my
It
mind.
does. Yeah, it does. And there are two concepts I want to float by you to get your opinion on. The first one being churn is not always a bad thing. And you just alluded to this in that if you are really leaning into your team, you understand what their drivers are professionally, you understand what personally motivates them. If they are seeking employment elsewhere or a change of career path, and you are an inhibitor to that, you start to create strained relationships. If you advocate for them, you create a really good bond with that person that will continue to be an advocate for you. So, to what degree and how do you, to what degree do you agree with that? And then to what degree do you perhaps communicate that to your team?
I don't know if it's an intentional, that I say intentionality. I don't know if it's an intentional communication. I think it's just they see it. I mean, they
Hmm.
see that, like the two last people that left, they see how we support it. They see how we celebrate it. We see how the announcements that came through Teams messages were, yes, we're so happy for these individuals and good luck with what they're doing, and we'll stay in touch and all that. So I agree with that, because they never know. They both are still going to talk positive about us. They're
Right.
still going to say, hey, if you're looking to get in this field, or if not even this field, they might not even know the field. But if you're looking to work with a company that'll find a role for you, and if you're good at what you do and you're passionate, boom, talk to Trimerit. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's the first time I said our company name.
Ah, I like
Um,
it.
I'm not as good as marketing as you. I see you have full send on your name there. I've got to put Trimerit at the end of my name. I was
It's all
thinking,
good.
should I put CPA, and I left that off. I should have put Trimerit. So yes, I think you need to be intentional. We are intentional, but it's almost naturally intentional about it. It's just, this is who we are.
Yep. So the second concept I want to float out there is maybe a little bit different compared to the industry standard. And I've been kind of revolving around this in my mind as I was exposed to it on LinkedIn several months ago. And this concept was, in effect, paying people to leave. Now, it sounds very counterintuitive, but the whole concept revolved around, hey, if you do not feel like this is the right fit for you, we want to transition the relationship with grace for both our clients and for our team and the responsibilities internally. And so, in this particular instance that I saw, they said, hey, for up to 2 months, we will pay you an additional 10% on top of your salary in order to transition gracefully for us to backfill the role, to allow clients a little bit more ease in that transition, and then also create an incentive for that outgoing employee for up to 2 months to be able to then gracefully move into their next role. What are your thoughts around that?
Um, I like the concept. I just don't see how it is. If somebody's going to intentionally leave, on their own accord, they probably already have something lined up. And so, are you going to ask them to delay that for 2 months? That's the first thing that popped in my head. I think
Yeah.
in on paper it sounds great. I think it helps the firm, especially when you're the 8 person firm. I mean, that's you're losing 10-12% of your staff if
Mhm.
one person leaves. I think that would be great. I think if it is out there and people know this, I was just thinking if it's sprung on you, but if people know this, if it's in your employee handbook, wherever you put stuff, I think that would get people to think more about that when they're ready to move on. And
Yeah.
actually, I think it might make them think about not moving on too,
Sure.
because this is how they look at me. This is how they value me, because I have this value I'm bringing to them, and they want me to be able to continue to share this value even during transition. I like it. I just have to see how it would be implemented and used.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of revolving around, is trying to understand how feasible is it. I do believe that it all points back to culture and creating a culture of transparency and openness, because ultimately it's on the firm owner to create an environment that people want to stay in. And if for one reason or another it's not a good fit, then you want that individual to tell you sooner rather than later so you can both make quality decisions and also maybe help coach, mentor, and guide them in that next career step as
Yeah,
well. And so I think it could work really well if governed in the right way, if communicated in the right way.
correct.
So just something that's unique that I thought could be interesting to chat as relates to culture.
Well, I mean, you definitely got me thinking now. So I'm gonna mull this over. Probably go back and forth with Chat GPT for a while and see what my buddy Chat says about it. Um, but yeah, I think that I like that. And then you just said something that I say a lot, and we haven't even brought it up here. But transparency is a
Mhm.
huge part of culture, and
Yeah.
transparency. So transparency, vulnerability, empathy, compassion. Those are all big things in creating a culture. And transparency and vulnerability, all those transparent, it kind of goes to all of those as well.
Yeah.
That's important, not only from being a transparent with, hey, I've gone through this, but even transparency with the financial aspect of the company, the goals of
Yeah.
the company, not keeping it secret, let everybody know what path you're on, where you're going. And even if there's bumps in the road, being transparent about that. We have a bump right now, and we're transparent about it. We went through a ton of cash in this first quarter,
Hmm.
and everybody knows it. But when you have a culture where people feel they're part of this organization, they make a difference, people rally around things like that then too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
transparency is huge.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that you all will have a big culture bump here in the next 2 months here with the hosting of Bridging the Gap. It's one of my favorite conferences of the year, the highest concentration of forward-thinking accountants that I've seen in the conference circuit. And so I suspect that plays a pretty good culture role in the aspect of the firm as well.
It does. Again, we'd rather it not be a money loser, so we're hoping to have pretty good attendance again. We're shooting for 250, but yeah, that not only builds culture with our community in our profession,
Hmm.
but it builds culture in our company, and I think culture in the community as well. Community collaboration. That we are such a strong collaborative community. Accounting is that I think I saw it really, really shine through at the conference, and I hope that does again.
It absolutely does. And I think accountants struggle with the idea of ROI attribution to events like this and marketing dollars and things like that. So I understand your struggle, but I venture to guess that even if you do lose a little bit of money, the ripple effect of what you create in the industry will come back above and beyond what you'd ever imagine from an ROI perspective.
Oh yeah,
Because I know it's been a huge value add to me and so many others.
yeah. We never went into this to make money. And we went in this to, now I sound altruistic or something, but to really give back to the profession. But when we give back, you're right, it does come back to us then too. At least people look at us as, hey, they care.
Yeah.
And that's, if somebody says they care, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've mentioned intentionality a number of times throughout this conversation. And when you go to Bridging the Gap, you can see the intentionality, you can feel it. There's a wellness room, there's yoga. Like I loved that last year. It was so cool. And I was so excited to see that announced again for this year. And I know you
Yep.
guys are always looking at ways to improve the mental health aspect side of things, the ability for people to connect really well. And so I cannot wait for that conference.
And you have one solo session and you're hosting a panel. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I'm on 2 sessions. We'll start preparing for those here in maybe, like, late July or so.
Not too late.
No, I'm really excited about that. It's a cool opportunity, so thank you for that.
No
But
problem.
Randy, I very much appreciate the conversation on culture today. It's something that I know we could drone on about for another hour or so. But thanks so much for joining Accounting Flow today. If people wanna find you and try Merit, where would they find you?
Well, two places, I guess. LinkedIn, we're all over LinkedIn, but marketing kind of puts me all over LinkedIn, I think. And then maybe not as much as you though. You daily putting your stuff on LinkedIn. That's amazing.
True.
LinkedIn, and then just our website, tri-merit.com.
Perfect.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I always have fun having conversations with you. So thank you.
For listening in today. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to share and write a review. This is going to help other firm owners just like you find our podcast and get insights into how to grow their firm. Stay tuned.